spending a bit of time in the garden as this gorgeous weather continues, so I just thought I'd produce another film documenting what's going on at the moment, and also feature a couple of updates from previous garden films, just making sure that the bird bath is replenished, and we're hoping for a few homegrown vegetables later in the season, so we're also making sure that our little vegetable patch is well watered too. Over the last few weeks there's been a real burst of floral growth in the garden. We never lose sight of the fact of how lucky we are to have a garden to enjoy. We certainly didn't create this garden, we actually inherited it when we moved back into the family home around 7 years ago now. So we just do our best to manage it and keep it as wildlife friendly as we can. And this burst of flora has certainly brought in the pollinators. And it's really good to see several species of bee visiting the blooms. Certain species of wild bee have been in decline recently. We should never underestimate how important these creatures are to our food production. So it's good to see them in abundance in the garden, and also hoverflies. And here's the briefest glimpse of the first small tortoiseshell I've seen in the garden so far this year, and several collared dove are a common sight in and around the garden. And it's the time of year to see cuckoo spit, and somewhere hidden in the foamy deposit is the nymph of a froghopper. And at last the first dragonfly I've seen in the garden this year. It's a female black-tailed skimmer, or it could be an immature male. Other species on view around the garden: a jackdaw, one of the 4 species of corvid we regularly see. And of course these beautiful red kite are a regular sight in the skies of Northamptonshire, and I suppose it's easy to take them for granted because we do see them so regularly, but they're still only common in certain hotspots here in the UK, but they are gradually spreading, but very slowly. Another of the 4 species of corvid we see regularly is the rook. And our colony of house sparrows continue to busy themselves in the hedges, and now recently fledged youngsters are a common sight. Another common sight, a wood pigeon. This male is displaying to the female, but she doesn't seem to be particularly interested in his advances. I thought I'd do a bit of an update on some of the previous lockdown garden films, and this ash tree that overhangs our garden features in quite a lot of them. And for the first time since we've been here, a pair of carrion crow built a nest in the ash. Both birds shared incubation duties, and we look forward to seeing a brood of carrion crow chicks. The incubation period came and went, and the birds continued to sit, and we assumed that somewhere in the deep nest was a brood of chicks. We witnessed scenes of what could have been small chicks being fed, but eventually sadly the birds abandoned the nest, and then more recently returned to remove what looked like nesting material from the nest. So whether the chicks actually hatched and died, or whether the eggs just failed, I don't know, or whether they were predated, as we do have arch predators, magpies around, but it's such a shame after all that hard work. And also in the last film, we saw a pair of blackbirds building a nest. We saw the female entering the hedge, and I still haven't found out exactly where the nest is, and I certainly don't want to disturb them, but as you can hear by the constant alarm calls, it's somewhere very close by. And remember the starlings nesting in a hole in the wall under the eaves of the house next door? Well, the parent birds were absolutely brilliant bringing in food, both birds constantly every few minutes, each new visit heralded by the loud chirring sound of the chicks as the parents brought in what looked mainly like insects, and then immature starling faces began to appear at the entrance to the nest. And the very next day, after I'd shot these stills, all was quiet, and the youngsters had fledged. And then I noticed an adult bird back at the nest site. Were they thinking of starting another brood? Well, not so far. And last but not least, here's a pond update. Some of the tadpoles must have morphed into frogs by now, leaving the pond under the cover of darkness, this small branch allowing them to climb out. But as you can see, there's still plenty of tadpole activity. In the past we've had newts in the pond, but I don't think there's any in there at the moment, or there wouldn't be this many tadpoles. Just having a look beneath the surface with the aid of my GoPro, it's fairly clear considering the amount of leaf mould on the bottom. A lot of leaves ended up in the pond courtesy of the storms earlier in the year. And during the coming winter, really must clear some of the leaf mould from the bottom. You need a certain amount in there to provide nutrients, but there's just a little too much in there. Well, I'll just pop the GoPro in this end of the pond and leave you with views of yet more tadpoles. Hope you enjoyed the film. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.